Let's first say hi to all our listeners. Today, I've got a special guest with me, and that is Anna Radzikowska, the COO of Mauvius Group, and also a lot of people know Kanban University, Kanban Plus, a lot more. That is all falls into that. She's quite well known in this industry, so I won't do much of an introduction. I guess you can find her on LinkedIn and can connect to her on LinkedIn if you want to. But hi, Anna, it's nice to have you here.
Hello, thank you very much for having me, Mathias, and for invitation. And I'm hoping that you will have good value and good time listening to us today.
Awesome. Thanks very much. Yeah, I think why we are here today is that Anya released a new book on Friday. So it's actually hot off the press, or say it tongue in cheek, it's not even off the press because it is only available on Kanban Plus and on the Better with Kanban subscription at this moment. But let me not get too early into this. We'll definitely speak about that today. But let me first take a step back. The big question is, why did you write it and for whom did you write it?
Okay, so maybe one more step back, but very short. So my identity is upstream person. So if you think about Kanban and Kanban system design, we usually talk about upstream and downstream, where downstream is this more known part of the Kanban system, but the upstream is actually the one where all product people are sitting. And I identify myself with the product part of the design and the system because I was working for many years in the finances, specifically in financial management. So this is important for this whole upstream story. But then I started also working business analyst, product owner, product manager. So I was always involved in this upstream part of the system, where you are actually defining what the product is and how we should build it. So then we started working on the class, which is called Kanban for Design and Innovation. And this class has never really had solid book behind, unlike all our classes. And after 3 years of teaching this class, I thought that maybe it will be good to write something for the students so that after they finish the class, they actually can go back home, they can read stuff, they can have access to some sort of additional knowledge except for the class. So this is why I started writing it, and then it started becoming bigger and bigger and bigger because at the beginning I thought it would be just a small piece of work. And here we are today. The book is finally published, hot of the virtual press, but soon also in hard copy.
Awesome. Yes, congratulations for that one. This is your first full-length book, or I know you've written loads of things. So, I mean, loads of, yeah.
In terms of Kanban, yes. Like I wrote books previously, but it was many years ago because I graduated history. So when I was still studying, I had a chance to write 2 books, but they are totally unrelated to this topic. So yeah, after many years, I came back here with
Awesome.
Kanban
So the
book.
circle is closing. That's
Yes.
awesome, and in a topic that really is I know is close to your heart, and maybe because of that, maybe take us through and say, what is this book about, and maybe how is it built up, and how do you want to take your reader along?
So I think that the most important concept in this book and the whole upstream system is actually not the visualization, but what Kanban is very often associated with, but the concept of real options. And this is where we start. So visualization comes next. So with the real options, we want to show people that whatever they work in upstream is not necessarily immediately committed. This gives them possibility to choose what's the best for them, what's the best for their clients, what they should really build and progress with that. And then eventually, after we talked initially about the 3 options, then we talk about design. And especially in this chapter about design, I try to collect as many examples as possible because I watched different case studies, I read different case studies, I did a couple of things myself. I also teach this KDI class a lot, and there I can see how people are designing their upstream systems. And so I tried to collect all of this experience and observations. And this is where we came up with sort of like 3 types of design of upstream system, because this is one of the questions that comes very often in the class. So how should I design? So depending on what's the type of the work that you are in, what's the type of things that you are building, you can come up with different designs. So I captured the 3 that I have seen the most often. But also, as I keep repeating to my students and anyone who I talk about upstream to, if you come up with anything else, anything that is not covered there, just let us know, and we are really happy to include it and expand this knowledge. So then after design, we also talk about the roles in upstream system, some feedback loops, metrics, which are specific to upstream with a special focus on the quality and how to measure the quality of work. And later we come back to the topic of real options and some additional techniques that are important for working in upstream, like for example, triage, deferred commitment, or time guillotine. And eventually at the end, we talk about the upstream inventory. And also the last chapter, I think my favorite chapter is about planning, because I know how difficult it is for people to plan. And this is a recurring topic, how to plan my work. And so I give, at the end, I give some small recipe, how to plan your work to deliver on time. So this is like overall how this book is built.
Awesome. Yeah, and if you're looking at your audience, I mean, you already said earlier on a bit with this course and so on. Is it more for the practitioner? Is it more for the person in the company? What would you say? Is it for whom is it mostly done? And is it really a practical, or is it more the theory of it?
I really wanted it to be practical. So whenever I bring any piece of content, I always try to show how it can be applied immediately at your work. So for example, when we talk about shelved items, which is one of the options that we apply in the upstream systems, you have sort of like implementation guidance with some pictures, with some visualization of how it can be applied, how it can be visualized, and what you can, for example, do to track these shelved items to not let them age too much. Or, for example, when we talk about visualization, of course, in this chapter, this visualization chapter, there are like plenty of pictures, plenty of examples from my experience, from other people's experience, which you can use to design your upstream systems. So I really wanted to be practical. I really wanted to show as many examples as possible, because like as we teach, there is like no one design, there is no one perfect Kanban system. You need to adjust it to where you are today and where you start with. And that's why each of these designs will be different. So I really hope that people will find some guidance there that they can use to improve their upstream systems or to build their upstream systems. So this practical part was very important to me. Now, for whom this book is, this is for anyone who has anything to do with building the product or contacting with client in order to deliver what client really needs, and to have this like common ground and understanding when the work will be delivered, because whatever we do in upstream also very heavily influences downstream and the overall delivery time of the product. This is also for consultants or coaches who work with teams to help them work better to deliver better products. But this is basically for anyone who has anything to do with upstream systems, but also for the downstream people if they want to better understand how to cooperate and build this communication with upstream colleagues. Because I think this is one of the main problems or source of dissatisfaction I have seen, is that delivery organization and discovery organizations or product organizations are very disconnected. They have issues with communication. They keep blaming each other for wrong delivery. And this is where this book comes with a helping hand to start building this common ground where we can actually meet and communicate.
Awesome. And if I'm looking at upstream Kanban, I mean, a lot of talk is these days about strategy and OKRs and whatsoever. Do you at all touch up to that level, or are you saying, okay, we already have these many ideas and we now need to bring them in and get them into execution?
Um, I would say it's even different angle of looking at things. So I don't talk too much about strategy and scaling. Like even though upstream Kanban is already sort of scaling, but I don't talk about this big scaling because for that we'll have a separate book, which will be scaling Kanban, and it will be the fourth installment in the series. So I don't touch this scaling topics that much. Also, I don't touch the other methods, frameworks, or way of working. Some of them are already discussed in Fit for Purpose book, which is maybe not directly referenced in Upstream book, but they both, I think, work very well together because in Fit for Purpose, the book and the whole content tells you about identifying customer needs and delivering them. So these two books are really in nice cooperation. So I just try to avoid repeating stuff as much as I could. You will find a lot of references to other books where you can find more information instead of like rewriting what was there. Of course, there is some stuff that needed to be added, for example, which we can find in Kanban maturity model. But I try to include as much new content or not describe previously content as possible. But there is also a lot of references to the work of people who were there and still are there, but before me. For example, Patrick Steyert with his Essential Upstream Kanban, which was basically, I think, the first book strictly talking about upstream Kanban, but also some other books from which we take ideas, from which we take inspiration to actually deliver good products. And also, like coming back to the beginning of my introduction, there is some stuff from financial management. So even if you are accountant, you can find something interesting there.
Awesome. Yeah, you just now named Patrick Steyert, and that is definitely one of the questions I've also got. I mean, yeah, he previously had this thin book about the introducing upstream Kanban and so on. Are you building on that work? Are you what would you say is yours now the newer version of it, or what would that be?
It's something different. As I mentioned, of course, we are using whatever Patrick developed heavily, and we used it for creating the class. And there is always a lot of references, like even to this, the most fundamental concept of upstream being a funnel, where you have options coming and then they are discarded, and eventually you come to the commitment point. So this funnel idea that Patrick came with is the fundamental of thinking and building the narrative about upstream Kanban. I also really love his case study from Nemeczek-Skia. This is case study that we use a lot in our KDI class, Kanban for Design and Innovation, where we show people how to design upstream systems, how to build upstream systems. So this is really a great case study, and I really love it. And then we added over like many years of teaching about upstream and actually people doing upstream more and more. We started collecting more cases, more field experience. And this book that I just wrote is basically based on this experience that I collected from either teaching or doing upstream myself. So yeah, it's not a totally new book. It's not a build up. It's somewhere in between.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome if it works on top of that. So that's great. The other thing you referenced just now was the Better with Kanban series. And I mean, I was the one or I did interview David when he brought out the first book, which was this blue book replacement, the Discovering Kanban. Yours is now Upstream Kanban. Where does it fit into the series? And you said already you talked about a fourth book. So there will be a third book. And I mean, yeah, where are we with the series?
Yeah, so actually this may be a bit confusing. So let me explain now the stuff. So when you look at the cover of the book, which is not there yet, but will be printed soon. The cover will say that this is the third third installment of the series. So Upstream is actually book number 3. We don't have book number 2, it's coming. And book number 2 will be about implementing Kanban, but focusing on downstream. And actually we had quite discussions here, whether we should make Upstream book number 2 and then make implementing Kanban book number 3. But eventually we decided to stay with this original order. So there is a gap between book 1 and 3, which is Upstream. But this is also related to the way how organizations and services mature. So we rather see upstream systems emerging from downstream rather than the other way around. So that's why the more natural in terms of maturity was implementing Kanban second book and then Upstream Kanban the third book, and then later scaling Kanban will come. So so yes, this will be the book number 3 when eventually the whole series appears. But right now, this is the second book of installment of the series.
And I think, yeah, that is the other one is with that is obviously where can I read it? If our listeners here saying, okay, where can I read this? Because as we teased on earlier, that it's actually not printed yet, but it is available. And maybe you want to say a bit about that one.
Yeah, so the book is right now available on Kanban Plus, which gives us a lot of advantages, because when the book was edited and basically reviewed by me and our editor, then we could put it on Kanban Plus. So it's there, you can read it already. And it's now available together with the previous book, which is the first one, Discovering Kanban. So you can just log in there. If you are the owner of this basic subscription, you can already read the book. And gradually we'll be also working on accompanying assets like posters or some downloads, infographics, so all of this traditional stuff that that we do for in Kanban Plus. And right now we are also finalizing the printed version of the book, which requires a bit more work, as you can imagine. And we hope it will be available hopefully next month, if not very, very soon. So we are just almost there. You know this column at the Kanban board, almost done. So we are there.
The finalizing, just
yes,
the,
exactly.
the little bit that is still missing, which is the last 80% of work or something like that.
Yeah, like no, yes. Oh my God, no. hopefully 10 or less. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that gives us a good introduction. I don't want to keep our listeners too long. It's always nice to have it short and sweet. But if you would want, my question at the end is always, if you would want the listener today just step out with one thing to remember about this book or about something that we talked about, what would that be?
One answer is short and crispy, and then explanation. Is that fine?
That is perfect.
Because a short and crispy answer is not enough. So I will start with this short version. So the main thoughts I would like people to take from this book is that upstream system is your insurance policy. It helps you to build and deliver the product that your clients really need and that your clients and you will be proud and happy about. So that's the short version. Now a bit longer explanation is that very often in the class people complain about the concept of discarding options, which is basically when we work on the option and then we decide eventually that we don't want to build it, or we don't need it, or we cannot build it, and we discard it. And then what people say is, okay, but I already spent time working on it, I spent time developing it, I spent time researching, so why should I discard it now? This is the waste of time. And the example that we use here is the insurance policy. So you have a car, you have a house, you pay insurance every year. You have your health insurance, which you pay every month. And I cross my fingers that you never have to use this insurance in your life. That you are healthy enough, so you don't need to go for long treatment to the hospital, that nothing happens to your house, there is no flood, there is no fire, that you don't participate in any accident. So you basically pay insurance every year, every month. And eventually, at the end of your life, you may realize that, oh my God, I put so much money and I have never used it. But this is why you pay insurance, that in the case of some uncertain, risky situation, something happens, someone will take care for you. Someone will give you this money. Someone will protect you in the situation where you cannot afford yourself to take care for that. And this is how Upstream works. So in Upstream, we work on options. We discard those options that we cannot develop, that we cannot do, or we don't want to build. And this is our insurance against losing more time, money, effort, resources later, and eventually delivering something that our customers hate or don't want to use. And the worst case scenario, now they will come back to you with change request, and now you need to change work on the change request. So yeah, that's the main thought from this book.
That's awesome. I think that is, yeah, but we call it often the sunk cost fallacy as well.
Yes.
I've already sunk cost in it, so I need to go on with it, even though it is actually cheaper to stop now.
Yes.
And because I'm just going to spend more cost on something that somebody else doesn't want. So that's the thing. One tiny thing that came up with me still when you just now talked about this project or product management. In how far does your book also rely to project management? Would it be interchangeable, or is it very different?
They are both there. Probably because I was also project manager, so it's part of me. And I worked in different companies. Some of them were more agile. Some of them were more conservative. So yeah, let's say it out loud. It was like hardcore waterfall SDLC. And for example, something that they talk about in the classes, and people always make like huge eyes. When I was this like project manager in January, I received the calendar of all deployment dates for the whole year. So I exactly knew which Saturday and which time slot, say between 2 and 6 p.m., I had for deployment. And I couldn't make deployment between my deployment dates. So it was super fixed, and it affected, for example, the planning. And it was really like, it wasn't product approach, it was project approach to work. We tried to make it product, but still you had to work in this frame that was given to you by your company. So yeah, there is also a bit about projects and how Upstream can work, project managers, because it really can. And this is my personal experience, where I used Upstream as project manager to actually help our clients and our team to work smoother.
Yeah, I personally think very much that one can use it, because I mean, you've always got too many projects and you need to sort out. And I'm not talking about the single project. I'm talking, like you say, I've got many deployments, or I've got many projects that I now have to, first of all, weed out and then run through the system. And I think there's not much of a difference. Yes, there's a certain approach. That's why I asked you. But as you said, I mean, you have used both, and one can definitely use it. The focus is maybe a bit more on product, but it is definitely project is also in there.
Yeah, and actually it reminds me about one small sort of like subchapter that I really like. This is to describe how you can, and this comes directly from project work. When you have a shared service of team of business analysts who are involved in different projects, and how you can visualize it from the level of the project, but also from the level of this shared service team to track the work and engagement on both levels. So yeah, it's
awesome. Yeah, I think that gives us a good wrap up. So thanks very much. Thanks, Anya. That was, and yeah, good luck with the last editing that you've got to do still. But it's awesome to see. And when I heard you had this book out, I said I have to keep on the tradition and interview you and get that out there. So yeah, congrats again.
Thank you, Matthias. It's honor and pleasure to talk to you always. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks very much.